So when you're thinking about diversity and equity, a lot of times people will come at it from one lens, right? So you are Black, you are Latina, you are a woman, you have a disability, right? And we often forget that intersectionality of it is important. So I'm a woman, but I'm also a Black woman. There are Black women with disabilities. There are Black women who are a part of the LGBTQ community. And all of those intersections of our identity are important. So I think when we're really thinking about systemic transformation and really making change for STEM as a whole, we really have to be really tuned in to people's identities, all that they bring to the table. So race and ethnicity, class, gender identity, sexual orientation, religion, age, all of those facets of identity that people bring to the table, so that when we're thinking about any kind of intervention or any kind of policy or any kind of change that we want to make, that we're really thinking about who we're impacting and how we're impacting them, based on what they're walking in the door with, because everybody brings their own perspectives, their own challenges, their own everything to the table when they walk through that door.
I think that we have to think more broadly than just computer science students. What we need to think about in the largest sense is, how do we increase the exposure that students have to computing? Who's having an opportunity to learn how computing applies in other fields, that students have a chance to really learn core concepts of computing. So work I've been doing in other projects is, for example, you have students who take a psychology class. They have to use statistics. So the students accomplish that, but they don't walk away with any understanding of what the computing concepts are behind that code. So they can't replicate that ever again. So to me, that's a missed opportunity. Students in biology, psychology, the quantitative social sciences, digital humanities, none of those students are really learning core concepts of computing, but those disciplines are all more diverse than computer sciences. So we're missing a huge opportunity there to broaden the diversity of who learns core concepts of computing. Within computer science itself, I do think that we have a long way to go to greet students with whatever background they bring to the door, and then give them a pathway into further computer science study.
On the policy side, we're looking at how do we create systemic change through these organizations, institutions on the post-secondary side, K-12 schools and districts, as well as nonprofits on the K-12 side. So those policies will be embedded in places where, in order to meet standards or accreditation, you have to meet those criteria that we include. The part that becomes a lot more individual are the practices that a lot of us have. For example, I often use this idea of no hat policies that I used to have for young men in my class. And my argument was always that I'm a woman, I'm from the South. When you're inside of a building, you're supposed to take your hat off. And often the people who made those decisions about what is professionally acceptable did not look like me, and no one was in the room, again, contributing to that thought process. And what does it really change in terms of a student's ability to learn and effectively get through and navigate a course if they decide to wear a hat? That's one example of a practice that we're trying to get individual educators and leaders to understand, because those individual practices may not seem like big deals, but they are in the grand scheme of things when you have a small group of students who feel like they're not seen or they're not validated, because when they show up, they have to change who they are to be accepted. And that's really what AiiCE is trying to do, is get everyone to understand that it's bigger than just the systems, it's also the people as well. And if we can start to at least impact the people, then hopefully the people will create this groundswell of support that leads to better policies in the systemic level.
All of the things that you feel like you might have to put away to enter the space is probably the things we need in that space in the first place. So this concept of like bringing your whole self, like it's not a cliche thing. Like it actually means something for you to be different in the room. We a lot of times in STEM, you know, force like it's assimilation. Like if you don't look like this, you're not a proper STEM person. But it's all of those things that people end up marginalized about that would actually improve what we're doing in those spaces. So I would really want people to bring those things into the spaces to really impact the future.
Welcome. Thank you all for joining us. Make sure I close out videos. Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are. I am Monica Allen. I am the program director at the Alliance for Identity Inclusive Computing Education. We are so excited to have you all here today for our second of this season, Identity and Computing Lecture Series. Today, we will be discussing the experience of computing students with disabilities. I have the privilege of introducing today's moderator, who will then introduce you to our panelists and get us started. Dr. Brianna Blazer is our panel moderator for today. Dr. Blazer brings a wealth of experience and a deep commitment to inclusivity in STEM. In her current role as the Associate Director of Access Computing at the DeWitt Center at the University of Washington, she is focused on promoting greater inclusion and accessibility for individuals with disabilities in STEM education. Dr. Blazer is also a valuable member of the AiiCE Steering Committee, where she contributes her expertise to advancing inclusive practices in computing spaces. Dr. Blazer earned a PhD in Women's Studies from the University of Washington, and her research focused on empowering women in STEM. Dr. Blazer's commitment to broadening participation in computing and fostering diversity, equity, and inclusion within STEM positions her as a respected leader in the field. We are honored to have her as our panel moderator today. Dr. Blazer.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Monica. Thank you for having us and for that introduction. I'm excited to be here, excited to have some of our Access Computing participants here to tell you a little bit about their experiences. Every time I sit down and talk to students with disabilities about their experiences in education, I learn something that can influence how we think about how we teach and interact with our students. So thank you as well to all of you for taking the time to sit down for us and to sit down with us and have this conversation today. I think one of the things I really value about our work with AiiCE is the commitment to thinking about disability and accessibility. You know, as our computing education thinks about broadening participation in computing, we so often mention disability, but we don't really sit down and talk about it in a more nuanced way. And so I think it's really important to learn from the lived experiences of individuals with disabilities. So I'm so excited for this conversation, and I'm excited for our panelists today. I am going to do fairly brief introductions, and then I'm going to let them tell them a little bit more about their education and career path. So we have today Heriberto Acosta Maestre, who received his PhD in information systems from the College of Computing and Engineering at Nova Southeastern University. Heriberto works currently as DL Program Training Administrator at the Puerto Rico National Guard. Carmel Haydarian has a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science from the University of Texas, El Paso, and a Master of Science in Graphic Information Technology from Arizona State. Carmel has experience in software engineering, research, and design. Ozioma Agüene is a first-year PhD student in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at the University of Notre Dame. Ozioma's research interests lie at the intersection of human-computer interaction, disability studies, and online privacy and safety. And Maya Zhang has a BS in computer science from California State University Northridge and hopes to pursue a PhD in computer science to ensure that our data is safe and secure. So thank you, all of you, for joining us and making this time for this presentation. And thanks to my colleague, Kayla Brown, who helped put together our panel today. I appreciate that as well. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys to give a little bit more of an introduction to yourself. And I'll start with you, Heriberto.
So my name is Roberto Costa. I'm from Puerto Rico. I have a bachelor's in computer engineering. I did my master's in data mining. As Brianna said, I did my PhD in information system security. I've been working for 14 years with the Puerto Rico Army National Guard as program manager. And I've also had previous IT management and software engineering experience. I have a mobility disability. I have spina bifida. Um, I'm mobile. I walk, but I do have all the issues that come with it. And however, I've never let that be a limit to me. I do everything everyone does around. I travel. I go to conferences. I jump. I run. I break things. And yeah, it's a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you.
Excellent. Carmel.
Okay. Hi, my name is Carmel Hadarian. As Brianna said, I got my bachelor's of science in computer science. After that, I worked as a research associate where I helped collect and analyze data from blind and low vision participants. After that, I decided to get my master's degree because my favorite class in my CS degree was HCI. So I got my master's in graphic information technology, where I got to focus more on the research side and the design side. After that, I ended up working as a designer and a little bit as a programmer or like a software engineer for a company that made complex financial calculators for banks. So I actually worked on an estate tax calculator and a RMD calculator for Bank of America. And then after that, I've just been doing a lot of freelance projects. My most recent one was a Python project, and that was where I assisted with a community assessment for Hidalgo County for the Early Head Start program. So that was all about like scraping data from a website, parsing and formatting it. And that was really fun and impactful. So I'm really interested in design systems and their implications for accessibility. And I'm currently looking for more projects or roles in software engineering and or UX research, and then the fun stuff about me. So I am low vision. I haven't gotten the formal diagnosis, but suspected anxiety and ADHD, and I have adenomyosis. So I have experience with pretty regular pain. And then I love my 2 dogs. I'm a huge dog lover. I love skateboarding and I love drawing. Thank you so much for having me.
Excellent. Thank you. Ozioma.
Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here. My name is Ozioma Ogune. I'm originally from Nigeria, where I obtained my bachelor's degrees in computer science. Right now, I'm doing a PhD at the University of Notre Dame, where I'm mentored by Dr. Carla Badillo-Okiola at the EPIC Research Lab. My research interests cuts across areas such as human-computer interaction, disability studies, and online safety and privacy. That research path was really valuable for me because growing up, I kind of had experiences of being, I was bullied by other people because of my difference. And going up to the PhD, I asked myself, what was the change I wanted to see in the world? What did I want to do to improve what I went through so other people don't have to face that? So I picked up online safety and privacy, where I can help design computers, systems, technologies for people to ensure wider diversity and inclusivity and ensure that they are safe when using these technologies. So a bit about my disability. I have a physical disability, mobility disability to be precise. I have ADHD, so I kind of find it really difficult to get around. So most times I use electric scooters to get between buildings. Sometimes when my legs don't hurt as much, I try to bike when I have to go really longer distances. A couple of fun things about me: I love biking because it helps me kind of like experience nature and see the environment more. I don't get out a lot because of my disability, but when I can, I love to really experience nature and just feel the environment. So I'm really excited to be here, and I feel like this conversation is long overdue. It's really important because intersectionality, identity are things that play huge roles as to how people, students sort of cope in colleges and studies. So yeah, good to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Maya.
Hi everyone, thank you for having me. And I'm just hearing all of y'all's bios. I'm just thinking, they're so great. So as Brianna stated, like I graduated with my CS degree BS degree in CS at California State University, Northridge, located around the Southern California area. And I'm currently working as a IT security analyst. Overall, I wanted to go and try to go and see how the working in industry is like before I move forward for a higher level degree. With that, I wanted to especially focus, as I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, is Ozioma?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, because sometimes I have difficulties pronouncing stuff. So kind of similar to you, I wanted to also go pursue something within data privacy, especially because I've noticed and I became kind of cognizant that a lot of data is being used by different companies, right? And sometimes there could be individuals who want to use that for harm, and especially against vulnerable individuals. So I want to try to go and bridge that gap, and then try to go and hopefully change the mindset from just using our data just for money, but rather protecting our data and maybe in the future our whole civil liberties. With that, I have an anxiety disorder, and that has limited me, and that actually has kind of it didn't really, I wouldn't say it limited me, but it did make it difficult for me to go and continue my course in college. There was a lot of ups and downs, but after I managed to go and get the help that I needed, I was able to, and the support that I needed from my previous university, I was able to go in and thrive. With that, I also have hard of hearing, so that's why I need captions.
Excellent. Thank you. I have some questions that I have shared with our panelists ahead of time that I am planning to ask. I would also love to hear questions from the audience and hope to have time to ask some of those as well. So if you're listening and have questions that you want to drop in the Q&A, that would be awesome. So I would love it if you guys could tell us a little bit about accommodations you might use at school or work. And I think part of that story is likely how challenging it is to get those accommodations and or document disabilities, et cetera, so that you get your accommodations. So I'd love to hear some of that story too. Maya, I just saw an enthusiastic head nod. Do you want to start?
Oh, okay, yeah. So it's kind of, I hope that I can shorten it down. So I went to a university previously, and it was like a research university, right? So it seems that one of my professors noticed that I was in a writing class that I shouldn't have been in. So and then under their discretion, they suggested I went to the Disability Resource Center. I basically went over there. I did what I had to do on my end, but it was only until a month after that I had to actually go to them in order to go and see what was going on to actually ensure that I got what I needed. And they stated that I was all right. I was fine. There was nothing wrong with me. With that, for me, I felt that was really a fruitful conversation. And then they just referred me to different referrals to different psychiatric offices. But the thing is, though, then I realized afterwards, I wasn't getting the support that I needed. But after I went to CSUN, that's when I actually got heard by a psychiatrist that was provided by the school, and got the assistance that I needed, and actually got the resources that I needed, such as more time on tests. And let's see, it's just more time. Well, for me, it was mainly more time on tests, because for me, my anxiety, when it manifests, I blink out, and then I try to go and think what I can, but then I overlook some stuff because that sense of adrenaline happens, and then I'm I can't really think of anything else. So I felt that like one of the most important things like schools and what schools should do is try to like listen to the students who are actually having issues. Because I'm just thinking when I was at that previous university that didn't help me, I was at my most vulnerable state and like it was really bad. And then that's why I had to go and I felt that at this point I might as well just try to rebuild my educational foundation, drop out, go to a community college, then before moving on to like higher education. But even then, I felt that the process could have been a lot shorter, and it's just overall it could have been less made me less daunting, like going back again, because that whole ordeal kind of like made me like apprehensive if I should actually get like a BS or like even go further and get an MS or a PhD, because I'm just thinking if I'm having these difficulties getting the disability services I needed, what about if I go to like graduate school? Will I have these issues further? But anyways, I know I'm going off track. I'll let the other panelists speak.
Thanks, Maya. Heriberto?
Back in my bachelor's degree, my first 2 years, the classes were in a 3-story building that the elevator needed a key. And while obviously the university was going to give me a key for the elevator, but the process, there was a lot of paperwork. There were supposed to be doctor visits and a lot of things, and the quarters were passing, and I was going up and down. And I had to reach out to someone that I knew inside of the administration to actually get me the key, because it was taking so much time because of all the paperwork. That was pretty much the only help I needed from them. Eventually, they did some constructions, and new buildings had the elevator open for everyone available. There were 3-story and there were 5-story buildings. And the other issue that I had was that initially the handicap parking, it was not clearly marked, and everyone would park around them. And I would go to the department office and test and say, hey, I'm not finding a parking because other people are parking there. People with pickups, people with that don't have the mark, the carnet. And most of the time, there would be 1 or 2 spaces. I had a mid-size SUV I could fit there, but I would still go to the university police, to the department, and say, hey, there's a whole bunch of cars that are not supposed to be there. And the response I would get would be, but you got a parking spot, right? What's the issue? Like, well, it's not just about me, it's for everyone else in the university that might need that spot. There's people there that shouldn't be taking it. At least eventually that was solved. They marked the parking spots correctly. They put signs, and people started respecting them. And then in the PhD, I really didn't have any issue. Nova had a good outreach department for people with different type of disabilities. They asked me from the start if there was anything that I needed. The counselors were great, and it was smooth sailing with them.
Excellent. Ozioma?
So for me, like, I guess coming into grad school was a new experience for me. And I had before grad school that it's gonna be tough, but I didn't know how tough it was gonna be with a disability. It was something I got to find out with the first semester of my grad studies. Because then I couldn't get an on-campus accommodation, so I had to stay off campus. So shuttling from my apartment down to campus and walking across buildings on campus was a huge challenge for me. I struggled. Back home, I wasn't used to like going really long distances. I usually had a car or someone go with me and assist me, and that wasn't really available when I came on campus, because there were spots where you could park. You couldn't really go further than those spots. Like, you couldn't get really close to buildings, which was something I was used to back home. So it was really challenging. Every day I'd go back to my apartment and, like, feel really bad and feel sad because my legs were hurting from the stress I was putting on it. And, at that point, I felt like I was in this void, like no one really understood what I was going through. Everyone expected me to show up for classes. Everyone expected me to do research, to do things like every other person. But then like I was having, like there were some challenges towards getting those things done. At some point I was really lucky because my advisor was someone who really paid attention to what's going on like with her students. And then she noticed that I was sort of like falling behind on my task, and she called me. I was like, hey, what's going on? I noticed that you're not keeping up with classes, and you know what's going on. And I had to tell her the experience that I was hurting, and you know, like my bones were paining me, and I was having serious issues. So she kind of like escalated the issue to the department and reached out to some of the disability support and resources we had on campus, where we were able to sort of like devise means, you know, get me an electric scooter to help me navigate around campus buildings, get me a gate pass to get cars closer to the buildings where I would want to stop at. You know, like she kind of like helped me get the sort of accommodations that I needed to help me thrive. And it to me, I kind of felt like this is a problem that you know relates to how like we disclose our disabilities, because being Black and having a disability, one thing that was in my mind was I didn't want to be a burden to someone else. I didn't want to tell people I was hurting to make them see me as, oh, I mean, you're different because you're Black. But then when you have a disability, it's like, we have to be concerned about you. So I didn't want that. I found it difficult, like expressing myself, oh, this is what I was going through. And I was glad that my advisor was able to read that out and sort of help me get the support I need. So yeah, right now I have an electric scooter that I use to navigate around campus. I also visit some of the disability resources we have on campus to help me like sort of get some of the accommodations like with exams, or whenever I can get on campus, I need to take classes, I can do them over Zoom. So yeah, some of those support are things that I'm kind of like finding out right now, and they've been really helpful in helping me navigate some of the barriers I had when I started grad school.
Thank you. You know, part of what I hear you talking about too is social capital, right? So students deciding how and when they're going to use their social capital if something is inaccessible, and you know, the careful calculus that might go into those decisions of whether this is really the time you want to ask for help, or if you're going to save that for a time that it's more impactful, and making those constant decisions. Carmel.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I understood the question. Is this the question about the accommodations we use and what we would ask for in school?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So when I was in school, like in my bachelor's degree, I would always ask for large font tests. And they would get really long. That was always kind of like funny because they were like thick tests. Like, and I kind of, in the beginning, I would be a little bit like, I didn't really want the attention, because like you would go to take a test and then like it was always a TA that was proctoring, so they didn't really know you. Like they knew, like the professor knew you, so then they would just call my name like before the test, or like in front of everybody, and that's fine now. Like now that I'm older, it's fine, but back then I was like, I don't want this attention, but it was okay. So I would get large font tests, and then I would also ask for presentations like ahead of time, and that was really helpful as well. I did have one problem with a professor. I had asked for accommodations. It was an astronomy class. I remember the details. And he like ignored me because I asked over email for the upcoming test. He ignored me. And then I was like, I think I emailed him again, and he ignored me. And then I got to the test and I got a normal font test. That was so hard to do. It was really hard. I think I still aced it, so good for me. But it was really hard. And then currently I use Magnify a lot, like Magnify Zoom on my laptop, which is super helpful. I love it. I also use speech, so not voiceover. Voiceover is a little bit too overwhelming for me. Like there's too much like audio stimulation. So I just use speech. I find that to be super helpful, and I can read things really fast, and I just read the things I need to read. And then this isn't really an accommodation as much as it is an aid. You'll see me doing this throughout the whole talk. I use like these kind of fidget things to kind of help me focus and yeah, stay on track. So yeah.
I have lots of those on my desk as well.
Good.
I won't show them all to you, but yeah, those are right for me to fidget so I can pay attention during a meeting because of my own anxiety.
And it's a highlighter. Wait, I can show you. Let's see. That's cool. Okay, let's get back on track.
No, that's awesome. You know, the other thing I hear coming out in your answers too is the labor and time involved to make sure that you are getting what you need, right? A word that's often used for this is the disability tax, right? So you have to do the same thing as everybody else, but you're going to go through emailing the professor multiple times to get his attention, to get the test in the format you need. Going to the disability services office and having a back and forth with them about documentation. Like, you know, there's some disability services office that if somebody walks in with a mobility impairment, disability, and can see, oh, this person uses crutches. Okay, I can just trust that they use crutches and they need the key to the elevator. You know, some offices will take that approach and others will be like, well, I need documentation. I need to know that this is permanent. And, you know, there's some disabilities that sometimes you want to be like, this is fairly obvious. Like, just give them the key, man. Like, what is the holdup here? So anyway, that I won't go. I won't continue that thought. But again, thinking about all the labor that goes into ensuring that you might have what you need just to have a level playing field, right? How do you all talk to faculty members about your disability, whether it's talking about accommodations or things you might need from them? Does anybody want to start that one?
I can start. Yeah, so personally for me, like, so I kind of grew up in a society where accessibility was not really a conversation we had. And if you had a disability, you have to struggle through it. And you're expected to be as successful as every other person at the end of the day, irrespective of the struggles you go through. So when I started grad school, it was really difficult for me having the conversation with my professors, my advisor on like, oh, I need sort of like a mobility aid, or like I'd probably need sort of like a Zoom support to help me with classes whenever I cannot get on campus. I had this perception that I was expected to also go through the program like the way other people went through it without any support or any help. So it was it was a big struggle to sort of disclose my challenges to my professors. Because and then it also comes with when you have built this kind of perception over time, it sort of like gives you this feeling like you feel like you're small and you feel like you shouldn't want to burden people with some of your challenges. You should just cope with it somehow. And it's difficult to cope with those issues. So for me, I think I think it's not more of me disclosing, but more of professors should sort of like create that environment that enables people to give sort of cues or like or even say something, because at times my advisor will be like, hey, come sit with me. So I'm taking off my advisor hat and I'm putting on my mom hat. What is the problem? Just speak, be comfortable, tell me what is it. I'm here for you. And then it helps me sort of like open up and be like, okay, this is what I'm struggling with. I can't get to class on time because of my leg. I can't walk as fast as every other person. So it'll take me some time to get to class. Most times I won't be on class because of this challenge, you know. So I guess for me, it's more about professors giving me the room to say to sort of disclose those challenges and the accommodations I would need to help with that. Than me actually going forward. I struggle with that, and something I'm trying to I'm working on improving on, like, to be able to communicate what I need. So yeah, I guess that's that has been my experience so far. Yeah, so mhm.
Thanks. Heriberto?
So maybe down here in Puerto Rico, I think that there are some cultural differences. Most professors, they'll treat you basically as a friend, as a tough friend, but as a friend. Um, in the sense that you can actually be transparent with them, you can talk with them, they will care about you. My school, where I did my bachelor's and my master's, classes were fairly small. Maybe sometimes we would be 8, sometimes we would be 20. That's pretty small compared to many universities in the States. So the professors got to know you. They knew who you were. They've known all the classes you've taken. They know everything about you. And you form a pretty good relationship that you can trust them and tell them things probably of your health, like, hey, I'm going through this, and this right now, or usually this might happen throughout the quarter, and this could affect my progress or my productivity with the work. Or if you're feeling ill for one reason or the other, you tell them, you go and talk to them, and they will give you an extension because they know you. They know you. You're part of the big family, basically. And I was treated pretty well with my professors. They were flexible. They were very flexible when I had some issues, when I needed extensions, when I had to miss a test or a project for a medical reason, for a health reason. And even in Nova, where most of my professors were from the US, they were American. The classes there, also the groups were small, 10, 15 people, and you were able to have pretty close relationships with them in that manner.
Excellent. Carmel?
Okay, I'm sorry, I have to remind myself of the question every time. Okay, so how I would talk to faculty. So this was more of a thing in my bachelor's degree because my master's was online because it was during the pandemic. So I really was lucky in that way. But when I was in person, like in my bachelor's degree, so I am like the child of immigrants, and like you kind of don't want to come off as any sort of different. That would be a bad way. My parents were really like supportive and stuff, but there's always kind of that little bit of underlying, thing. So I didn't really have the language to talk about my disabilities yet. And I also was like, I want to pass, right? Like I want to pass as non-disabled. That was like a big thing for me, which was like not possible. So I would always go up to the professors like at the end of that first day, that lecture, and they would, it was the lecture over the syllabus, and they would always have that part at the end, like about you need accommodations. So I would piggyback off of that, and I would say, I'm really nearsighted, which I find really funny now. But that was the language I had, right? So I'd be like, I'm really nearsighted, and like, I'm not sure if I knew exactly what I needed. I think I did. I was like, I need the PowerPoints, like I need the large font tests. I need a chair in the front, which was always a thing. Like I had to make sure I got there early. Like I think you were saying this, Brianna, that like you really got to put in the time sometimes with a disability. Like there's a bit of a tax where like I had to get there early, like all the time, so I could get my chair, So that's kind of how I talked about it. I kind of wish because I did software engineering labs, and I forgot to mention this earlier. I used to use a monocular And I used to use my phone a lot to like take pictures of the board because that was a challenge. Like when they would take notes on the board that were not from a PowerPoint, it was really intense keeping up. So yeah, so that was a little off topic, but back to what I was saying. So that was how I would ask for accommodations.
Thank you. Maya.
No, I think I had like something similar to what Carmel stated. So basically, well, for me, after like learning about my diagnosis, I would go and ask my professors, for these accommodations during the beginning of the semester, so that way I wouldn't struggle as much until like the very end. So now when I recall, I would need like, time extensions for tests alongside with like being able to record the audio for their lectures, because there's some instances where I wouldn't be able to go and catch something, and then I wouldn't be able to go and get the most of the material like to comprehend within my brain. That's what I think, like Caramel actually eloquently stated better. So yeah, I'll just whatever Caramel stated. Yeah, I agree with her. Yeah, I just like I have similar experiences to her. So yes, she took the words out of my mouth.
Perfect. My next question is how or what advice you would give to faculty members that want to support students with disabilities in their classroom. Yeah, I'll leave it there. Does anybody want to go first? Heriberto, I see your smile. I'm gonna you go.
Okay. I'll say the same thing I said in a panel last year. Be nice. Just be nice. I know young professors, when they start at university, they want to be very gung-ho. They want to be the toughest. They don't trust anyone because all of the students are cheating. All of the students want to take advantage of them. You know what? Most students are nice. Most students are honest. And likewise, most students with a disability, they're really honest. And they're going through some hard stuff, many of them. Just be nice to them. You have nothing to lose, and you will earn some great friends throughout your lifetime. And it's not bad that that you have some friendship with your students. Try to learn about them and be interested in them in their lives. I had professors that would come to me and told me like, oh, tell me about your disability, what happened, how is it, how do you deal with things, and they were genuinely interested. So just be nice. Most of your students are. I don't want to say that everyone's struggling in some way or another, but don't be an obstacle. Don't make it harder for them.
Maya, do you want to add to that?
I mean, Roberto basically just stated it. It's just like just don't make it difficult for students, like the students come and go and whatnot. But it's like, everybody, I would say just have the best. Well, just think of the best of the students. The students just want to go and do well in your classes. They're just trying to do their best. They want to go and graduate and move on with their lives as well. So oh yeah, that reminds me. So another thing that I think is just listen, like actually listen. So listen, and what I mean by that is that you can like take in what the person is saying and kind of absorb it, and maybe like hopefully like as like it can help foster the student professor relationship, as both of y'all are trying to work together on the issue that the student's having in order to go and create a much more, it helps foster like a good relationship, and just fosters a great and safer environment to allow students to thrive because they're getting their voices heard. And I don't know how to phrase it well enough. It's just it helps foster a great environment just to let students flourish as well.
And there's a trust issue there, and feeling that you've got some trust there. Carmel.
Okay. I have to look at my notes for this one. So I actually talked to my sister before doing this panel. She just moderated a panel with professors. And something that we like discussed was that kind of what like Heriberto and Maya were saying, that like it's not the professor's job to decipher like whether or not someone has a disability. I think Heriberto mentioned it, that like just trust them that they have a disability. And then I agree with Maya that you need to encourage them to listen, or like listen to the students. And then also it's just really good of professors to like attend these kinds of panels and listen to perspectives. And if they are here, like, thank you so much for being here, and continue to go to events like this so you can learn more and more perspectives, because this is a very good start, but like this isn't everybody's experience. And then another thing that I think Maya and I touched on is that students don't always have the language to talk about their disability, and they may not know what to ask for. I don't really know like how to give professors advice about that one, but it's just something to keep in mind, that they don't always have the language yet for it. Because I mean, you're like 18, like I don't know, like that's kind of still young. And then also just to keep in mind, like for my experience, like some of us were taught to pass as non-disabled. So just keep that in mind, be encouraging and like warm. And then the final thing is like, I think Brianna touched upon this, that getting accommodations is a lot of extra work from us, like from the students. It's extra work. So like, please be understanding, because like we have to get the courage. Some of us have to get the courage to go and ask professors, first of all. And then if they are skeptical or like not, not cooperative, it's really a lot for like that young adult. That's a lot. So just to keep those things in mind. Thank you.
One thing you said that I think is really important to think about too is that there are a lot of folks who are college age and just starting to get a diagnosis, just realizing there's an issue. I mean, I can think back to my own college experience and I can think about ways that my anxiety impacted it, but I didn't at the time think of it as an anxiety disorder. It was just, I was just shy. I was just, whatever. And so absolutely, I didn't have the language and I didn't have the documentation to actually ask for or get accommodations, right? And so sometimes you just felt like, I don't know why I can't do this because everybody else can, right? I can't get the documentation. I don't know how to talk to my faculty member about it. This just isn't working for me. Ozioma.
So I'm gonna go off based on what Herberto, Maya, and Carmel just said. Basically, my advice for professors would be sort of like create a very communicative and very open environment, so students can feel free to tell you some of their challenges. A whole lot of times, in my experience, self-disclosure is very difficult. Most times it demands a whole lot of courage for a person with disability to walk up to you and tell you their challenges and be vulnerable to you. So, but if you can create that environment, that welcoming environment, that communicative environment, and you're nice, just like Alberto said, then they can come up to you and actually tell you some of these challenges. Yeah, then the second one is professors should try. I know it's difficult to sort of like account for all disabilities, but try as much as possible to familiarize yourself with some of the resources available. Some students don't actually know the resource or accommodation they might need. So it would be helpful for you to be like, oh, I know this resource that might be helpful to you, or you could check out this or you could try out that. That could really help students with disability a lot. Thirdly, talk about flexibility. Like Herbato mentioned, some new professors want to be tough, want to do things right and everything. But like if you can be flexible to sort of like adapt your work and your teaching system to help students with disabilities, that would be really helpful. If someone needs an accommodation for Zoom because they cannot be in class, if you can provide that, I think it will go a long way in helping that person like catch up with the rest of the class. So yeah, I think just professors should just like try to be understanding, try to empathize with students with disability. It's gonna go a long way in fostering like good relationship and also promoting inclusivity within the classroom environment.
Thank you. I'd also love to hear from you about what you think technologists should know about disability and accessibility. So as we're teaching the computing students who are going to be our technologists of tomorrow, what should they know? Relatedly, somebody asked about accessibility issues you've encountered using or developing software.
So, So a whole lot of times, what I've seen, especially being in the computing field and doing research, is that technologies are being designed for people and not with people, which is what the current trend of research is trying to change. Disability justice, design justice, those are principles and frameworks that foster designing technologies with marginalized and vulnerable populations rather than designing for them. I think that is something that should be encouraged in today's world of research, and technologists should be aware of this. Most times, everyone has different cultural experiences, very unique, and a time to have things like intersectionality, which can play a role as to how people use technologies. You know, if technology designers can bear some of these unique experiences and characteristics in mind, you know, before putting out technologies, like, I think it'd be really, really great. Because then you would design technologies that are tailored to people's needs, and not designing technology and then asking, oh, what do people need to use this technology? Rather, you design technologies people can use rather than making, making it like an aftermath question. We see these days, like most research, like dating up until this time, like has been more about accessibility has been given a back seat. It's more of a reactive approach to research rather than a proactive approach. I mean, right now, researchers are working towards making it proactive. Are working towards focusing on asset-based technological design rather than deficit-based, which I feel should be good, because then it's not just focusing on the weaknesses of people with disability. You shouldn't focus on the weaknesses of users with disability when putting out technologies. You should also focus on features that improve their strengths, that empowers them to be able to use technology to sort of keep themselves safe and ensure their well-being. So I think for me, it's more or less the two advice I have is technology should try and design technologies with people with disability and not for people with disability. And secondly, accessibility shouldn't be something we think about after technologies are being put out, but rather it should be something that should be considered in the design process of those technologies. So those are some of the advice I have on regards.
Excellent. Carmel.
I cannot unmute. Okay, I was super excited about this question. Okay, so I first of all, hearing about design justice, that was like the coolest thing ever. So thank you for that. And I wrote it down because that was awesome. So about this, I talked to my sister about it and she was pretty passionate. She's legally blind, so she was telling me, and she's a researcher and a professor, and she was very passionate. And she was like, make sure you talk about this. So she says, when you make an update, so this to the technologists, when you make an update for an app, make sure that the whole app is still accessible, because sometimes it's fine, like it's accessible and they're like, oh my God, new feature update. And then it's like, oh my God, you just threw everything off. Like, so please make sure that it's still accessible after your update. And then another thing is that, like, make sure your app can run like while assistive tech is running simultaneously. this happens for my sister a lot. For example, like even Word crashes when she's using her screen reader. So like that's not a very, you know, intensive task, like using Word and a screen reader. Like it really should not be crashing. So like to do those tests and to keep that in mind, like please do that because it's a big deal. So yeah, that's it for me.
Heriberto.
So the number 42, and not because it appears in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. There's 42 million people in the United States with some type of disability. If you as a company are ignoring 42 million people, you have issues, you have problems, and you're not selling to everyone. And that's a problem. You know, your CFO should be really mad at you. You really need to start paying attention to that population. 42 million is a lot of users that are not using your software, your program. The other night I was doom scrolling through TikTok, and I found this stream of this user who was quadriplegic, and he was playing Elden Ring better than I play it, using this adapter control that he would manipulate with his mouth, which must be tough as heck for a game that is already incredibly difficult. I would love, I followed him, and I would love to say, I'm going to send him a message because I would love to know how difficult it was for him to configure it for the game, because I'm not sure if many game developers have any type of accessibility settings so that you can put that type of control to their games to increase the different type of users that can play, have adaptive controllers, how easy it would be, or if you need to have some type of mod to actually play with types of adaptive controllers. But yeah, 42 million users you are wasting away, you're ignoring when you don't put any type of accessibilities in your software.
The Xbox has a very cool adaptive controller. If you haven't seen it and you're interested in adaptive gaming, look it up. It's very cool. Maya, how about you?
So it's kind of what oh my goodness, I just lost my train of thought. Oh God. So oh my goodness, I just lost it. I'm so sorry. So I'm just thinking about like how if you wait, now I received it again. So usually when we have accessibility in mind within our designs, it actually ends up benefiting everyone as a whole. So it's just trying to go and push for more accessibility in design, alongside with just in general, just keeping like, although there's 42 million people, it seems that like people who represent us who are disabled is like kind of like a minority. With that, I'm also just trying to like be cognizant about like who gets valued and what, especially within these designs. Because when I took an HEI class, right? We focused on like different technologies. We focused on like, different ways of implementation. And I'm just thinking, who gets to design this item for what reason? Who is funding this? How come they don't consider other individuals in this as well as a benefit? So it's like kind of like trying to go in trying to be cognizant of like, who gets valued, but yet who are the individuals who can leverage this item the most? It's that balancing act. That's all I have to say so far. Everyone else has like really great responses to this question though.
No, that was great. I would just add to that, if you're looking for more resources about how to teach accessibility, Teach Access is one good organization that has resources, but also has opportunities for students to meet accessibility professionals and learn about the field of accessibility. So that can be something to check out. One of our attendees asked whether there were any experiences when you were younger, particularly in K-12, that influenced your decision to study computer science.
I mean, I have kind of a hilarious one. My computer had malware in it. I'm like thinking, oh no, who can hurt me now? And then I had to go and try to go and research on my own to go and see what I needed to do to remediate it. And that's kind of led me to a little, because of me being anxious led me to like a whole spiral of like, how do I protect myself, especially on the internet? Who do I need to go and protect myself against? And again, it's like it kind of spouted from there. Now I'm and like now with the current issues that we currently face with privacy, it's kind of snowballed from there.
Yeah, can I share my experience on this? Yeah, so basically for me growing up, I was very often bullied by other people. So like online platforms, online gaming were some of the places where I could be more expressive because I couldn't play soccer or do other things people could do in real life, and everyone picked on me because of how I looked. So I went virtual to do most of my stuff. So in playing games and doing like several like virtual things, I kind of found love for computer science and all it had to offer. Like from then on, like I started working on classes that could lead me up to this point. And I guess that was how my path kind of like moved from my challenges in the physical space to like what I'm studying right now, and how I intend to use what I'm studying to sort of help other people not to experience the challenges I had in the physical space. If that makes sense. Yeah, that's sort of like my motivation.
I was just gonna say no. I just wanted to share this because I feel like it's a little bit different. I didn't really have any experiences like that. All I did have was that I was pretty good at math, like, and math made a lot of sense to me. And that was like amidst a lot of like K through 12 colleagues, I guess, or like fellow students, that were like, oh, math doesn't make sense. It's so hard. And I was like, man, math is awesome. I love it. And I actually went into university as a health science student because I was like, I'll do nutrition. I don't even know how I picked nutrition. I just picked it. And then I was like, my cousin's doing civil engineering. I'll do civil engineering. So I switched. And then I made a friend in civil engineering, Ashley, and she's like, I'm switching to CS. I was like, I'm switching to CS. And then like, I almost switched one more time, but my mom was like, you need to stop switching. Like, can you just focus? So that's how I ended up in CS.
Excellent.
I don't know why. I think I always like building things. I I I had a computer since '97, more or less, and I was pretty good in math. I like physics. I like all the sciences. So I thought of computer as something that was a little bit agnostic, that I could apply into all the different domains. And yeah, engineering went just right in with building and breaking things.
Right. We are almost at our time. Does anybody have a closing thought or something you didn't get to share? We have 1 or 2 minutes. Oh, excellent. It looks like there's nothing burning, but Carmel wants to say something.
She's muted.
I am muted. I was trying. I was gonna say that I have some friends that I made from the not AxCon. Oh my gosh, Tapia. And they have disabilities. And one of them was sharing with me that like at her school, like she's considering transferring, and that she's noticed because they are giving her a really hard time in terms of accommodations. And she noticed that like some of her peers they disappeared, like one dropped out. I can't remember what the other one did, either like transferred or I don't know. But that made me pretty upset because I'm like, I love seeing people like me, like people with disabilities, like in high positions. It's where we belong. So I hope that people that walk away from here, especially like professors, please don't let that happen. Please support your students. It is really hard. It is kind of taxing for us. Like I remember after my CS2 lab, I went home and cried because it was so hard to keep up with like the monocular and like writing the code at the same time. But like I really liked it. So I just please support the students. They really need it. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for your time. We are respectful of the hour. We are at the top of the hour. I just wanted to say, as we close out, I'm always left after any of Brianna's sessions feeling very aware of my ignorance and always lots of like, obviously, as we work together. And we really appreciate the work that you all are doing in this domain and making us all aware. So thank you so much for that. As we wrap up, we have dropped in the chat our next event in our Identity and Computing Lecture Series event, From Policy to Practice, Impacts on K-12 Computer Science Education, and the link to register for it coming up in November. And you'll be able to view today's recording later on this week on our AiiCE website. Once again, thank you all so much for your time and for your experiences. Thank you.
Thank you.